right, well, good morning. Welcome. My name is Fred Kiser. I'm actually Director of Choirs here at Kirkwood Community College. But as a professing musician, as it were, I also dabble in some other things. And one of the new-ish, but not too new programs is this GarageBand. And GarageBand is something that I think a lot of people have heard something about. It's the brand name is familiar enough, as it were. But it's also can be a little bit intimidating, especially if you're starting out. What does this mean? What does this imply? And so today I'm going to talk to you and work with you in GarageBand, both a little bit in the Mac version, but also in the iPad version. And there's pros and cons to each version, partly depending on what things you're interested in doing and your comfort level. But they're both just fantastic programs and a lot of fun to play with. I will make the one disclaimer. I am, although I'm an excellent musician, I am still learning myself about kind of all of the little sub-functions that you can do. So I just say, get under the hood, play around. You're not launching nuclear missiles. No, the power systems will not go off, and there's always a back button. So you can do that. The other thing I would say, if you get really excited about composition, take a class. Take a class in music theory and how music pieces are working together, because creating great sounds, that's fun, and that doesn't take a lot of skill. But I think to understand kind of how a song is put together or how a longer work is put together, that does require a little bit of extra training. And if that's through a book, there's some great songwriting books out there. A book on theory, music theory, and how chords go together. Well, you'll kind of see as we go along. We're going to start out with GarageBand, the Mac version, just to give you kind of an overview. I've opened up, actually started with one of the projects in how I use GarageBand for my groups here at the college. I work with Jazz Transit, which is the vocal jazz, and oftentimes music students need a little extra help in learning their parts. And so in the old days, you'd make a practice tape where I would sit down at the piano, I would plunk out their part. If I made any mistakes, then they would learn the mistakes. If I was off in any other way, well, you know how it is. Now with GarageBand, actually it's been a lot, I wouldn't say more fun, maybe. It's never fun to do someone else's work for them. But it's been more fun to create these sort of practice tapes. So I'll show you, this is kind of the main screen on the Macintosh for GarageBand. And what I have is a chart pulled up. It's called Me and Julio. It's an arrangement of the Simon and Garfunkel Me and Julio Down at the Schoolyard. And actually, if I flip over to iTunes, it sounds a little bit like this.
Investigation, it's against the law. Was against the law. What the mama saw was against the law.
Great little jazz chart, jazz arrangement. So what I did with that was I created a sound file of that track, an MP3. And if I go over into GarageBand, it's one of the nice things about GarageBand, I just drag and dropped in that original Me and Julio. And then I went in, and on the other lines, you can add and subtract tracks or lines of voices. And what I did was I took the other four voices, the soprano, alto, tenor, and bass, and I recorded their parts. And then it ultimately creates this. And let me actually go back to the beginning. So I slowed down the recording before I put it in so they could learn their parts. Each other line shows the part that is going to sing or play, and then when I play it, and I can mute voices. So let's say, all right, I've got the bass, he really needs to learn his part. So I can mute the other voices, there's the bass, there's the original, and I can play. And there's the bass part. And he can hear his part and the recording and learn. He can also, it may not sound differently here, Well, one of the controls you can use is you can pan an individual track. And so it's actually set up so the original is in his left ear, if he's using headphones. The original is left ear, his part's in his right ear. So begin with the end in sight or end with the beginning in sight. Here's what a finished project would look like on GarageBand. Let me go back to the beginning now, kind of show you some of the ways that you can use this program to create a new sound. First of all, it looks like there's a lot of things going on the screen, but it's only because you can make it. I'm going to save that, get out of that. So when you start a new project in GarageBand, it gives you an option of, well, how do you want to create this project? Options include a keyboard collection, and it's going to give you a wide variety of keyboard type sounds that you can put into that. An amp collection for guitars, for bass guitars, a voice where you can record your voice, and we're going to do that a little bit later on. Ringtones, hip hop. If you're a drummer, and I will admit I'm middle-aged person, so I'm not into dubstep and hip hop, but you can create hip hop beats and collections, as I know as you all want to. Other electronic type sounds, a more songwriter, but we'll start with the keyboard collection. So it's going to create a keyboard collection and takes you up to the main editor screen. And the main editor screen gives you, here again, a variety of types of sounds that you can then record. Anything from a Steinway Grand to a tone wheel organ, and so forth on down the line. Now you can add and subtract these tracks simply by clicking delete, and that will take off all of the other possibilities. So let's say I've got three, we'll go with three choices.
Is there a way to preview the sound?
And then, yes, there is. So what you can do is, I've got to find the, because that's the one little thing. Oh, it's control. Nope. That's the EQ. I want to have it show the keyboard. There we go. So now two ways that you can input, either with the keyboard, this keyboard that's on screen, and there's two different sizes. There's a full keyboard, or it gives you a smaller keyboard option as it thinks about it. That it doesn't like. So, or I can go to the electric piano and so forth. I will be honest with you and here's pros and cons. The Mac version gives you a lot more variety in terms of how the type of editing that you can do. The iPad, it's easier to dink along, and so for me, I have a MIDI keyboard, an electric keyboard at home that I have a simple connection, connect in, and I can just play my piano and create these sounds. So in this GarageBand, you've got your selection of sounds. Each sound then is a track, creates a track, and I can record. Let's just say I'm going to record a little something with my electric piano. It'll count off, and then and you can see it's a little clunky. It's a little clunky. But you see now the green area is where I've recorded that track on piano. And I can go back and we can listen to it again and be amazed at my great compositional abilities. And we can say, well, that's really nice, but what if I want to hear it faster? This menu bar gives you then your options of tempos And I can say, oh, let's go from 120 to 160. And now it's faster. Or let's say, I think I can go. Actually, that will show me, give me some differences. Now, this function, here's a transpose function. So I've taken it from the notes that I've played. Well, now it's going to raise that up. So you say, well, I like those notes, but I want to hear them, a lot higher. Here they are, higher and lower. Now, the other thing that you can do is, okay, in this little sample here, let's say, I think I've played a wrong note. You can go in and you can edit. This shows it as a small track. If I get out of this view, I can go and I can edit. I can now look at each, let's move that over. Here's how each pitch looks on a grid. So for me, who's used to musical notation, half notes, quarter notes, those kinds of things, it was an adjustment to going to, here's the grid view. It's like taking my beautiful artistry and reducing it too. But you can see, okay, here's how it is on the grid. Okay, so let's say, for example, I don't like this last note. I don't want it to be that pitch. I want it to be this pitch. And now I've edited. And I can go back and so you can edit really quickly. Based on the grid. You can also say, well, look at this note. I mean, duration, pitch and duration. Say, oh, well, this note, that's too short. Let's make it longer. And so I could just drag that across. And now, when I play, okay, and can I change the pitch? You can also change, and we were talking about how, sometimes when you hit the keyboard, the first press is really hard. You can change then a variety of the sustain level, the decay of the sound. You can get very fancy as you look at this in the Mac version. You can send through the iCloud Drive, you can send files from your Mac to your iPad or back and forth or through Dropbox or other methods. But how do you add chords to it? So it's the same process on this, and I'll show you the easier way. On this, it is a case where you're going to have to play in everything that you want to do on the full Mac version. It also because now that I say that, let me think about this for a second. I want to add, so let's say I want to add a new track. Now, see, you can add, so your options are, here's the sounds, individual sounds, microphone, guitar and bass, again, is you're going to plug in a guitar with a keyboard, and on you go. So let me show you the fun way. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, as it were, with what you can do with the full GarageBand. You can create, you can insert. The more fun way, as we switch gears, in some regards, is to look at the Mac, or is the iPad version. And this is where we are actually going to, we're going to write a song this morning. I know you weren't maybe prepared for that. And then we have to hit a button, don't we?
Actually, I think if you just turn your iPad on, it should be ready to roll.
So here's the iPad versions. Reduced in functionality in some ways, more in others. It's easier for you to kind of... we're going to create a new song here, and whereas on the Mac, you do have to input specific things. When you create a track on the iPad, you can create something that allows you to have chords. So I'm going to start with strings. And so each type of instrument, a variety of instruments, gives you a couple of combinations. This is set up with a set of chords, so I can play. And you can do it so that it plays, or if you can hold and sustain. Yeah. Or this is where, and now you say, oh well, that was me creating the sounds. If I go over to the right and I can click on chords, I can do this. And now it will. This is where, when I was a kid, and some of you may remember, the music stores, they would have that demo organ in the front where the guy could create thousands of sounds and different things, and I always loved that, and now I can do the same. This is where I create my... All right. So that's one option, one way to create chords and sounds. That's just the strings. You also have, and this is really where now the variety of options. Same thing with smart drums. Now the drum setting is a little bit different. It can create, as we're going to be a little hip hop now, where we can create. I can see your excitement. All right, let's say I'm going to have a clap, and on the pad you can say, okay, louder, softer, more complex, less complex. I think the easiest way for me to demonstrate, though, a song is for us to build. We're going to build a song. Over the last couple of days, I went in and I've created a couple of different things. It's pretty easy to do. So we're going to create a song. We'll create a little a commercial, as it were. We're going to create a new song. We're going to start with some drums, and you can do the smart drums where it's a little bit more hip hop, or you can do slide through and drums. We are going to create a drum beat. Starts out two options. It has the very simple, oh look, this looks like a, maraca. Yeah. And we're going to start with our drum track. Okay? So to create a track, we would hit the red record button. Be amazed here now at my percussive skills. All right, so we're going to start, and I'm actually going to layer. All right, so it's going to give me a 4-count click in before I start recording. So I hit record. And you can see, even for me today, there's a little bit of delay. So okay, I'm gonna layer this. Let's add a little something, because just with the bass, it may be a little dull. Yeah. Okay. All right. There's the one I want. So here's my 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is why they don't let me out of my office very often. Let's add a little bit of, no, let's get our clap. It's not a really good chart without a little clap. So we're going to throw a clap. Okay, and I think there's a little bit of delay. That's the big room sound. You can also create, you can go through and actually look at it. Well, here's a traditional. So I could go back and I could delete everything that I just did because, let's face it, it wasn't that good. And I can create now this track with, we'll go with the SoCal set. And we'll see if we can do. Okay, well, and that's the variety. You can also say, let me go back to my song. Stop. Across the top of the screen. So here's my drum set. I can also change a variety of settings as well. In the 3 little sliders, okay, gives you a variety of options as well here, but I want to go to the metronome. My metronome gives me that click track. My options, there's the one, tempo. Right now I've got it at 110 and I'm a little behind on the 110 this morning. So we'll slow it down a little bit. And play. So I've created my drums and I think I can actually go back and do something a little. Let's add in one more little piece. We're going to add a little cymbal. All right, so I've got a drum track, right? And we can go from the individual view, which is that button right there, to here's what the full setting looks like, and here is my initial drum track. Okay? If I like my drum track, which is questionable, I can loop that drum track. That is just, that's awful. I think there's like a delay, like there's a little delay this morning. My iPad didn't have enough coffee. If I like this track, then I can loop it. And that just means it's going to keep repeating that set of 4 measures until we're just really tired of it. If I hate it, I can go over here and just say, it's delete. And it's gone. So what I can do instead is say, oh look, let's go to the pros. And I can use that's a little bit better, I think. We add that as our SoCal drummer. So now we've got our drummer. All right, and so I've got Kyle is going to play drums for me, and that's his role now. There we go. Okay, over that we're going to add a bass line, and I will swap to my smart bass. And now, again, you have Liverpool bass, or you have a variety of other bass guitar options. And I'm going to stick with the Liverpool, and the autoplay again gives me that variety of options. I like the one where he does a lot of work for me. I always like that one. So, oh yeah, and then the little riff. So now we're going to create now the bass track. Nope. Gotta go back to the beginning. Okay. I'm going to change my chords. Actually, we'll just keep it right in C. Okay, and now I'll go back to my, now here's my full set. And I could say, all right, well, here we go. And now I've got drums and bass. Let's add. What should we add next? We'll add our strings. Okay. We're going to go at this level, I think. Now, also, these are your cinematic strings, and I really think you could kind of feel that sort of, yeah, it is what that is. You also have modern strings. Or your pop. Romantic's nice. But we'll keep we'll go back to our cinematic. All right, so now I'm going to create this. We'll go back to the beginning. We'll create this string texture. I feel my brilliance already. Can you just tell that?
All these different instruments, does that all come with, on the iPad?
All comes on the iPad.
Now, what about on the Mac? Because GarageBand comes automatically on the Mac.
It's all on the Mac.
All on there.
It's all on there. You can also, and with each sound, and you can see this more on the Mac, each sound, you can customize it. You know, the decay, the reverb, the touch, the amount of hisping, whatever. I've noticed that it is much better with, in the sense of these kinds of sounds. The solo instrument sounds, which we'll come to here in a second, you know, they're certainly entry level, I would say, in terms of sampling the French horn. It doesn't really sound like the French horn. But for much of this, yeah, it's right there.
So you can create a whole piano concerto with...
You can. And what's nice is, again, for the little bit of actual composition work that I've done, it takes a lot of discipline. But what you do is you can, I'll show you. You slow it down, slow the recording down to the level that you can play. And if you can play very slowly, great. You play slowly, you record slowly, and then shoop, and then you can play it back at whatever tempo that you want and sound even more brilliant than you are. So if we go back, and so I'll go back to that. So that gives you an idea. You have a variety, again, here are all of the options, and you can continue to add voices, and you can continue to, you know, change layers. You can, with the strings, you can edit, and this is where being a musician helps. These are a preset of chords that I can utilize. You can change these chords to whatever you want them to be. But to your question, and now I'm going to flip back to the Mac, which is probably going to turn everything off momentarily. But let me show you, to that extent, what a recent recording project for me. I have a good friend who is on the board of directors. Hey, it's back. Board of directors for Playtime Poppy, for the children's theater. And they asked me to retape, no, don't save, because that was, to help them out with the Playtime Poppy theme song and to do a fresh recording of it. Well, there again, even the best live piano, there's always a little bit of, so I went through and I recorded, and you don't have to sing along, but you can if you want. Except it's not going to give me my sound. It's doing that. How did we fix the sound problem? Oh, yeah. It was me. Whoop. How about HDMI?
Yep.
Okay. Hopped on. See if it goes. Let me close out of GarageBand first.
Yep. I would just close it and restart. And we'll do the same thing.
That's back. Ah! This was a cool thing, and of course, the great little example I want to show you is the one that's not going to work for me now. I re-recorded Playtime Poppy. It's written in a, well, kind of a, okay, I got that one here now, so. It's written in a ragtime style, so it has more hands than I can necessarily play with. You know this? Happy little song, right? I sound brilliant. I wish I needed to save the original version when I started, but I actually recorded it. I separated it into 2 tracks. So we go back to the beginning. So when I recorded it, I did this. I recorded the right hand, and then I went back and I recorded the left hand, but I actually recorded it because I know what tempo I recorded it at. I recorded it at, oh, come on, not 35. I recorded it about 75. And if you look at the lower screen here, again, the editor, if you note, every note's right on the beat. Yes, there's no variance. This is a process called quantization. So I can come back through to these notes, and if you see it's in this time quantize, it moved everything to the level of the 16th note. So if I started just a hair early or a hair late, it just boom, lined it all right up.